Welcome back to Exploring Whiskeys. I'm Eric.
And I'm Kevin, and hopefully you had a great Christmas. Yeah. And we are right back at it with the second part of our Rabbit Hole on-site distillery tasting tour extravaganza. Anyway.
If you haven't seen the first episode, I encourage you to click the link above my head here and watch the first episode. And then when you're done with that, watch the second one and enjoy the second half of our tasting.
Enjoy the show. Cheers.
Cheers.
Now, if you really like rye, let's take a hard left turn. Let's take a hard left turn.
Okay.
And really explore what rye can do. So this next one, this looks like Sauvignon Blanc. It is not. It is gin. Now, first of all, I love sharing this story. When I first started with Rabbit Hole, I asked Kade, I said, why do we do gin? And he goes, because I like gin. And I thought that was a really great answer because I'm like, this is a founder's brand. What he likes, he's doing, and he's trying to expose more people to it. I thought that was brilliant, right? So gin has this idea behind it of can't drink it neat. It's a cocktail spirit. Why not? Why can't you drink gin neat? Why can't you get a gin that you can just put in a glass and enjoy at room temperature, right? So we're about to discover why.
So there is a liquor store by our house, and they have a gin. They've had a couple different runs of it. It's their store picks.
Yeah.
There was one that was 150 something.
Woo! And like black. It looks like Boat Royal.
And they give you the little sample, and it was a struggle.
It was gin?
Yes.
Why was it so dark?
They did their.
It was the way they
finished it.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a finish gin.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
the proof on it, I'm like, what are? To me,
Why
do you
do with that?
What do you do with it? And
Yeah.
the gentleman that works at the store, he's like, no, you're going to drink this like you're going to drink a bourbon. You're just going to put a big cube in a glass. You're going to pour 2 or 3 ounces, and just take your time. And to me, I'm like, yeah, no, that never resonates in my mind to sit here and sip on gin.
So it doesn't
like
gin. Yeah. See, I've never been a gin person. This has turned me into a gin drinker to where I'm starting to discover other gins that I do like, which is kind of crazy when you think, I've never been a gin drinker. What we do is we take a London dry gin. Now, it also comes in at high proof. It comes in at like 190 proof, no joke. We filter it and proof it down. Kentucky limestone filtered water, right here, right? I mean, some of the best water sources in the world, right here.
Yep.
Then we finish it in these barrels, in the Boxergrail barrels, for like 6 months. And so that's why it has that.
Okay, so it's picking up a little bit of a rye.
It is going to kind of tamp down the juniper. So you'll smell the juniper on here, like a little bit of that evergreen.
Yep.
But when you taste this, you're going to be shocked. It tastes like limoncello and Earl Grey tea. And once again, the tea note from that rye.
Yeah, the evergreen.
See, now this is one that you want to put over a cube and drink it. You want to drink it in a cube.
Oh.
It's a cocktail already. Out of the bottle, it is a cocktail. And I mean, let me blow your mind a little more. That's 89 proof. That's almost a 90 proof gin that you can just drink at room temperature. In fact, I think it was Forbes magazine in 2018 named this the best gin to drink neat in America, which is a strange award. But they're not
Very
wrong.
specific.
Yeah, very specific. But they're not wrong. I mean, it's so easy to drink.
It is. I will say, so the nose is, I was going to go a little struggle bus on there because I was really feeling the Christmas tree. I'm like, that is not going to be, but the limoncello comes through. So where's the lemon? How's that even?
So the people that make this for us, they're the oldest gin distillery in London, and their gin is proprietary. So they don't give us everything they put in the basket, right?
Okay.
But right off the nose, I can tell just, nosing this and tasting it before it hits our barrel, I know that on top of being at least 70% juniper to make a London dry gin in the basket, they're also putting citrus peel in there. I think rosemary, there's, what else is in there? Tea leaves, things like, you can taste that in there, right? Then in bergamot, there's some bergamot in there, which I think where that Earl Grey is really coming from.
What is
bergamot? Bergamot is like what makes Earl Grey like Earl Grey tea.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like this really herby, earthy note, kind of hits you up here, like perfumey, that kind of perfume in it. Yeah. That, when you put that in the rye barrel and you start getting some of those sweet caramel, vanilla, then plus maybe a little pepper and floral notes from the rye. All that together, it just creates this incredible spirit. Once again, it's not producing, it's creating, right?
Yeah. I was going to say, once you taste it, that nose changed completely.
Yeah.
Like the Christmas tree juniper note is kind of slid back.
Yeah.
The lemon is so strong, very like
it's amazing,
zesty,
right?
and that's really good.
And that's really cool. I mean, what if you like get down the bottom of this or finish it and then you smell it, it's all juniper. Like the juniper just comes out of notes, right?
That first note was, I was like, ooh, that's not going to be.
My wife did say, she goes, if you get the chance to taste the gin while you're up there, she goes, well, no, maybe we have to find a bottle.
And I'll tell you,
I mean, she's a huge gin fan. So.
And like I said, our one friend was just like that. The gin, don't like gin. That's really good gin.
And neat, it's great, but I will tell you, just simple with club soda and an orange slice, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Simple cocktail, and it's fantastic.
That sounds good too.
Yeah, I call it a Rabbit Ricky, like a gin Ricky, but you know, it's Rabbit Ricky. Bespoke Gin from Rabbit Hole.
Wow. Yeah, you go back to that for a second. And coming off of a lot of sweeter drinks, that of course the nose is going to
And then it breaks
a
it
little
up too.
off-putting.
Yeah.
But that is a little sorbet too, a little palate cleanser. Nice.
1,000%.
Again, I think you might have done this. That is much better than I expected.
I get that a lot. I get that a lot about Bespoke Gin. People are not expecting that. It's a very marketing phrase, but I like using it anyways. I think we subvert expectations a lot with our products, and that gin is no different, right? I mean, there's no exception to that. We really, you see that, and you think it's going to be one thing, and you taste it, and it's something completely different.
Yes. Very nice.
All right, so now we're going to take us back to the beginning of the story. So Dareringer, we kind of talked about the names of these. I don't think we talked about Bespoke. Bespoke is kind of like tailored suit, right? We're taking something and tailoring it specifically for America, for Kentucky, right?
Flavor profiles. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Dareringer, this really is an homage to the love story that started it all between Kave and Heather. So Dareringer, if you look at the way this is spelled, it's spelled Dareringer. We call it Dareringer, but it's spelled Dareringer. The reason is, I don't know if this is the actual, I like to say this, that Heather really dared Kave to open a bourbon distillery, and he did. In fact, she told him, this bourbon obsession of yours is going to lead the family down a rabbit hole. That's where we got the name.
Nice.
But she has been his ringer. She is the Kentucky influence. Without Heather, there is no rabbit hole. Right? He would have never, maybe he would have, but he would not have discovered it in this way.
Yeah.
Right? So it's really all about that love story between Heather and Kave. So then let's talk about Kave's side of it. He was a Scotch drinker. He loved sherried scotches. So why can't you do that with American whiskey? So what we did, we took a wheated bourbon. The mash bill on this is 68% corn, 18% wheat, not malted, just wheat, and 14% malted barley. It's usually aged around like 5 to 7 years, somewhere around there. And then we finish it for 6 months in the Pedro Ximenez sherry casks from Casnolia, which is in Montilla, Spain. We like to say 3 families and 2 continents. So got the people making the sherry barrels, that's a family-owned business. You've got Kelvin making the barrels over here that the bourbon is going to age in, and then you have Kave's family, Ximenez family, making the bourbon, the Rabbit Hole bourbon. So 3 families, 2 continents, gives you Dareringer. The nose on this, I like to call this my desert island smelling whiskey. Like I could smell this for the rest of my life and be a super happy guy. That I think the sherry jumps out at you, right? And
yeah,
like raisins, and chocolate, and then the bourbon kind of supports it underneath, like that oak and that vanilla sort of just kind of get a little sturdy base.
Yeah, it's just kind of under there. But the sherry comes through really strong with that, and I think that's one of the things that we talked about in there. That was one of the notes that we like. It was a nice change. The meeting that we particularly had that one, it was all finished whiskey, and we had some ports, and we had one IPA. Don't ever do that with a whiskey. But that one, it stood out as it added, but it didn't subtract.
Yes.
That was one of the things I thought stood out the most about that particular whiskey, and all that, like everything else, it was either way overpowered or it Like, just did it wash it to a barrel of whatever they were finishing?
It's all about balance. Yeah. Again, right? It's all about balance. I mean, I always kind of visualize a seesaw. If you start one place, you have to end in another place to balance it, right? Mm-hmm. And this one does the same thing. I mean, when you taste it, it's bourbon and then it's sherry. And it does so in a way that's almost seamless. Yeah. Right? And it starts with the caramel and the vanilla and the oak. And then by the end, you're like passing through cherry and raisin and fig and like marzipan, which is apparently like the tasting note of the year in the bourbon world. Everyone loves talking about marzipan. Like almond paste and peach, like stone fruit, tea on this again. There's tea on this.
The corn.
Mm-hmm.
What was the
68%? 68% corn.
Those are
70. Mm-hmm.
So
that that oh man,
so those are like the weird questions.
Yeah.
We started
that's a good
these
one.
weird questions like why? What was it that made the Bespoke Distillery thing drop that off just a little bit more?
Really interesting.
And what does that bring?
So I mean, full transparency. So we have never sourced any of our bourbons. We make it right now. Before the distillery was open, we contract distill, which means you still make it. You just do it in somebody else's facility, right? Dareringer is the exception. We actually sourced that at first. We got that from Wyoming whiskey. They gave us that bourbon, right? We took those barrels. So that was the mash bill they were already creating. Now we make that now, but we don't want to change the mash bill. Yeah. Because it's working, right? And so I think that's a little bit of like chicken before the egg thing. Did it work because of the mash bill, or does the mash bill work because of the chicken? You know what I mean? Like what came first? And so for us, it was like we just found a great weeded bourbon. Why mess with perfection, right? Why mess with it?
I get it.
So, and I don't know. Maybe Kaveh is going to call me tomorrow and be like, actually, no, this is exactly what I don't know. If he does, I'll let you know, and you can drop it at the end of the video. But I'm pretty sure it's just like, why mess with it? Like, it was already there. Now, we're making that now, and we're keeping the same mash bill because we don't want to mess with it. Yeah. It's creating a beautiful, beautiful product. Yeah. And so, why mess with it?
Absolutely.
I remember the cherries, it was like the common theme. Everyone said.
Yeah. And if you do like dark chocolate with this, it tastes like a chocolate covered cherry.
I can see that.
Yeah. And like cigars, like a dark wrap, like Maduro with this. Ooh, it's nice. It's really nice.
Yeah, those are the weird little random rabbit
holes that
we jumped down. What? Well, why? Why did you have two going one way? And just flip the script on that. But that kind of makes sense if you figured it out and you got, I like this flavor profile. Messing with the recipe is, maybe that's not a good thing, right?
Yeah, but 60, I feel like most of them are 70, 75%. That's just, I feel like that's just kind of industry standard. So yeah, to drop it down to a 60 does seem weird, but obviously, I mean, it works.
I mean, it's just like cooking again. If you, especially like, I think of it like baking, which I'm a good cook, I'm a terrible baker, because baking is science. If you just add too much of a dry ingredient, you get a completely different dish, right? And so it's the same thing with mash bills. Just by dropping those 2 percentage points, it really changes it. I mean, it really changes it.
Yeah, the note. That is one. The nose on that is so fruity and light and just like dessert.
It's a dessert.
It's definitely the dessert bourbon.
I think that our wives are not bourbon drinkers, but I think that they can enjoy this.
Probably. Same thing. Yeah, my wife is. She's just not a bourbon drinker. She really, really thinks that sherry is something special to that. And she's a sweet wine drinker. She likes like sweet wines.
Okay.
She always has been a sweet wine person, and she loves that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That is. It's a nice bottle. It's a very nice bottle.
That is a very, goes along with we're talking about chocolates and cigars. That's a perfect after dinner.
Yeah. After dinner relax.
Or, it's like a digestif, right? Or it's like a charcuterie bourbon too. Like if you're doing a nice charcuterie plate, that Dareringer fits right in with it. Especially if you're doing like, one that has a lot of like smoked meats or like salty cheeses.
Okay.
You ever done like, prosciutto and melon, or like parm and fig jam, like those, it's the sweet and the salty together. That's Dareringer, right? That's Dareringer.
Very nice.
Now we're gonna do something really special. I was so happy I was able to grab one of these bottles. This is Founders. This is our Founders collection. So this is Rabbit Hole's very first limited edition.
Yeah.
This is only 7 barrels total. The total bottle count on this Founders is 1315, so 1,315 bottles total. That's it. This is Boxergrail, but it is some of the very first barrels that we laid down. It is the best of those barrels, what we call like honey barrels. And this is also cask strength. I mean, it's 114.6 proof, so nothing added, nothing taken away.
Okay.
And this, if you liked Boxergrail, now I know you're a rye guy. I am a rye guy. I will tell you, this is like Boxergrail on steroids. So all those flavors we talked about, Earl Grey tea, caramel, like soft spices, those sorts of things, up to 11 on this, right? But the one thing that really shocks me about this, it has this added sort of leather finish, like really kind of earthy, chewy sort of leather finish. And then the mouthfeel on this, you don't get this a lot with rye. It is oily and creamy because, once again, non-chill filtered, right?
Non-chill filtered,
but then
not
cask
cooled down.
strength.
Yeah.
So this is very, very special.
And the fact that you barreled it at 110, and it, over the years it lost some of the water. So it's, you said what, 114?
114.6.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see why. A little bit more oils going to come through on that.
I'd be so sad when this bottle is gone. I'm gonna have to figure out how to get another one. To tell you, it's hard.
Even at 114, there's no burn.
So I got more of that butterscotch that you keep talking about. I actually got it on this one, which I did not get in the original Boxergrail. So that is, yeah. So it's amped up. There's a lot of notes that are amped up a little bit, but the oily finish, the mouthfeel is totally different, and the sweetness really, I thought, just came through a lot stronger.
And it's crazy because the sweetness, like you were kind of talking about, like placements earlier, like sweets usually towards the front.
Right.
This back here.
Yeah.
Hangs off like the sides of the tongue, almost like you took melted butter and sugar and took a spoonful of it or something, and it just coats the side of the mouth.
Yeah. It's hitting a different spot.
Like almost like dulce de leche, right? Like just creamy caramel.
But it does really coat the mouth.
Yeah. All right, now I got a little bit more of the rye spice on the second taste, which that's gonna make sense. It just makes sense.
And I do think, like, mint is on 95, the 95 proof Boxergrail for this. I really get the dill. Like, I really get the dill seed, like the dill herb on this, like on the nose.
It's very herby.
Really.
There's a lot of an herb note.
But you gotta have that to cut the sweetness, right?
Yes.
If you didn't have that, it would just be overly sweet.
Right.
And with that, it balances so well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I will never, ever get tired of this.
So, limited run. Found it so obviously in some brick house, someplace, there's a honey spot. So, the new barrels get tossed in there, and you're
so we're going to be doing founders every year. Now, it's not going to be Boxergrail. So Cave does a weekly Instagram live every Saturday. At 3:30, you can find it on Rabbit Hole, so at Rabbit Hole. And a few weeks ago, he had Michael Matomedy on, who was our chief marketing officer. He was the second hire for Rabbit Hole, and they really talked about the story of how Rabbit Hole started, like all the crazy things that they did, right? And he let something slip on that, which was our next founders. It's going to be coming out in the spring, and it's a very, very old bourbon. So it's going to be a 15-year-old bourbon that comes from Cave's personal stocks. These are barrels that he has accumulated in his career, that he just bought barrels of and decided, he basically had to sell it to Rabbit Hole so that Rabbit Hole can mess with it, right?
Okay.
And it is finished in something. It is finished in a very special, very rare oak barrel that I really can't get too more into right now, but incredibly rare type of oak that comes from the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And that one will be our next founder. So we're trying to do this biannually. So not every 2 years, the other way. 2 times a year, right? We're going to try and do more founders.
Okay.
So the next one is going to be that finished.
So that's a bourbon?
It is a bourbon.
But it's not one of your bourbons?
No, it is going to be one that Cave collected. Yeah, that we took and
just
finished.
The one barrel?
I think
small collection.
I'm not sure exactly how many bottles it's going to be. I think it's a few barrels, but I would say it's probably less than
that.
Yeah. And then after that, maybe it's going to be a cask strength of something else. You never know. but it just kind of depends. So every year we're going to be doing something a little bit different 2 times a year.
Nice.
But on top of that, we also have different barrel finishes we're messing with. There's a 5 grain we're messing with right now that has some chocolate malt in it. Who knows? That may get bottled, it may not. Maybe it's going to be terrible. Maybe it's going to be great. I think it's amazing, but I'm not Cave. I don't get to make that call, right? So we'll see. And so we've got a lot of stuff just we're working with right now to see what's going to happen. What's going to happen? I mean, ages can change, finishes can change, everything can change.
Yeah.
And that's like I said, production is repetitive, creation is personal.
So do you have a separate
every time it's boring?
Do you have a separate area where you're to do those experiments?
Oh, you're talking about in the rick house?
Yeah.
Well, I mean that gets a little tricky because we just finished. So a lot of this stuff that you're tasting, the rick houses were actually at Cask and Key. Where we were storing our barrels until we finished our rick houses.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 2 completed now. They're both stainless steel. We getting ready to break ground on the 3rd really soon. All stainless steel. And so we're still learning about those rick houses because every rick house is different. Exactly.
Yeah.
And they'll be right next to each other, but just because they're right next to each other, they're going to age completely different, right? So we'll see. We'll see where those honey spots are. I mean, generally honey spots are a little lower, kind of in the middle, the warehouse, but you never know.
You never find out on some of the other ones. They all have, one distiller has 5 or 6 different labels, but it's the ones that sit in the middle.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the floor.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the middle. It goes to that label.
Yeah.
The ones that sit in the northeast corner go to that label.
Well, and that's the thing is that I don't know if
Same
that's
as
something we'll ever
obviously.
do, but if we do, I mean, we'll probably be very transparent about it because, once again, that really drove Cave crazy when we first started doing this was, you don't know where anything's coming from.
Right.
And people were very hesitant to put, I mean, it's gotten better in the past decade. People are a little bit more open about where things are, what's in the bottle. But still, I mean, I can think of a major bourbon producer that will never tell anyone what their yeast is because they've been propagating it for 150 years or whatever, right? They're never going to tell anybody that because that's very special to them, right?
Yeah.
Whereas we're very open about everything. We don't want you to have to really puzzle over what's in the bottle. We want you to be able to pick this up off the shelf and be like, I know what's in that bottle. You may not know what it tastes like, but at least you know what the ingredients are and where it's coming from.
So do you have particular floors pegged for your?
Oh, guys, once again, who knows? Who knows? We're still figuring that out in those warehouses. Castle and Key is, I think, pretty small warehouses. They're not real high. So they were pretty consistent all the way through. The other thing about their warehouses, they were all stone. And stone warehouses tend to give you lower proof barrels. Because if you think about it, when you get that Angel's share lifted out of there, it hits the stone, it falls back down. The barrel doesn't go anywhere. Whereas all steel rick houses, you're going to get more evaporation, so they're going to be higher proof.
Right.
So we'll see. We're going to have to kind of figure that out.
The humidity in the stone would be way higher, so yes. Okay.
And that's the fun part. Again, creation, right? It's all about creation and innovation.
So out of your lineup here, in the marketing that you are, I mean, what is probably your number one?
Founders.
Founders?
You talking about my favorite?
No,
Number one seller.
Yeah.
Number one seller. Cave Hill. Cave Hill is our number one seller. The original, the OG. But they all do really, really well. High Gold has been doing very well. So This was the original. This is the newest bourbon. I mean, if you're not counting Founders. High Gold is the newest bourbon that we released.
All right.
It's been doing very, very well too. Dareringer. I mean, they all do. We don't really have any
This is your
primary.
And
we don't really have
it.
anything that does terribly.
Okay.
I guess the lowest selling is Founders, just because it's so hard to find, and there's not much of it. But even the gin does really well, and I think the gin, once somebody puts it, you put it in somebody's glass, they try it, they're gonna buy it.
And distribution? Are you
Coast to coast?
Sorry.
You want to talk about amazing timing? We launched nationwide in March, so we had a little bit of a hiccup right away, but very quickly started running with it. In fact, I think our biggest month ever in sales was last month. So, and that's not just us; that's the industry. We're kind of talking about, it's kind of recession proof. I mean, people they're buying a lot of bourbon right now. They just are. So,
and have the time to just explore, spend some time with it, go to a store because there's nothing else going on.
Start a YouTube channel, do a podcast.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's gotten better every time we go back to it. That's a really good job.
Yeah, that Founders is something special.
Yes.
It's really, really special.
Wow. That's a great lineup. I love the fact that you're trying a few different things and can't wait to see what. That's the other thing. Like when you find a couple of younger, just starting out or have their like 3 or 4 core. I just can't wait to see like what's the next 5 years for Rabbit Hole look like. What other kind of finishes you go. That's going to be happening. We're going to have to keep an eye out for whether or not it's that one, or as you do your twice a year release. That'll be something we'll have to keep an eye out for, because that's amazing. This was absolutely awesome.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Really appreciate the opportunity to come up here.
Of course.
It's slightly convenient that we're just south of Nashville to mosey up here, but the invite and reaching out, totally appreciate that. This is going to be great. Can't wait to. I got a lot of editing to do, but that's okay. We'll do some editing of the tour that we just did, and we got to kind of walk around the whole joint. And
if you're passing
VIP,
this is once things
once
reopen. This is definitely the building is really cool, and the way you explain the story of how it was kind of laid out is really cool. So
it's really amazing.
Passing through, this is definitely one to make sure.
Yeah, and the redone store down front.
Yeah.
And then obviously this space.
Yeah, this
once you open back up,
think about it. It's mid-afternoon on Sunday. We should be packed in here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, just the way it is right now, we don't want to. We're really big on being best in class in terms of hospitality. We give a great tour here. It's very immersive, and until we can do so safely, we're just not going to do it, because we don't want people to come in here and not have a good time. What's the point of that? Right. So until we're able to do it safely and have a great plan going forward with it, then we're just going to have to experience it virtually. And we offer that too. We do this great package where you can pick it up at the distillery, or I think you can go to Caskers and get it, where you buy the bourbons and you get a virtual tasting too with a tour guide. And I'm doing it. In fact, it's gotten so busy and so popular, I've had to kind of pass it off. I had to hire somebody to help me out with it. And so we do a little tasting up here. It's always done from the distillery, so we can take you into the atrium and you can do a little tour with us too. Like, that's really big. We know that since we can't open to the public, we want to figure out ways to invite people to our space.
Still interact.
That's where my whole role has come from. So
there you go. Well,
this has been a lot of fun. Again, we really appreciate the hospitality. We hope everyone enjoyed this episode of Exploring Whiskeys. If you did, we encourage you to leave us a comment and hit the like button at the bottom of the screen.
Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you get notified every time we put out a new show. And obviously, a special thank you to Adam and to Rabbit Hole for hosting us. And
cheers.
And
cheers, guys.
Cheers.
We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for watching.
We hope you enjoyed our first multi-part episode, as well as our first show on the road, so to speak.
Yeah. Overall, it was enjoyable.
Very much so.
All the whiskeys the experience was great, and absolutely a big thank you to Adam Edwards.
Adam, thank you.
That was an amazing experience, and I think you set a very high bar for if we do ever do another tour like this and a on-site review. But outside of so just kind of thinking through some of those, obviously the whole reason we got invited was the Dareringer, and that's really good.
Yeah.
It's a little pricey, but it's really, really sweet.
I'd say that was probably my favorite.
Yeah.
But going into it though, I've heard of Rabbit Hole. I've seen it on the shelf.
That's the only one I've ever had.
Yeah, that might be it for me too. So I had no idea what to expect going into it, but leaving that tasting, there isn't one bottle that I would recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, and it all depends on the profile. If you want a little bit more spice, but it's not even a rye spice, that's what this is. But then when you turn around and do, each one has a very different profile. So it kind of depends on what you want.
Right.
Like, what are you feeling today? Do you want a little more spice? Do you want something a little sweeter? Even the rye wasn't bad. It's still not my favorite thing. Though I will say the Founder's Rye, that extra age or whatever it was, or why they picked those particular barrels, that was very, very solid. I'm really looking forward to their next.
That was just an annual.
Yeah. Well, no, that was the first time, and now I think they're going to start doing twice a year.
Twice a year.
But it's not always going to be the rye. There's a couple different ideas of what they're looking at for next year or so.
Well, it's Cave's like personal stash, so to speak, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think we were supposed to say that.
Oh, whoops.
I think that was after the recording. So
I thought he said a drink. Oh,
I don't know.
cut it out.
I'll rewatch, and if it was, I'll just cut all this out.
We just say it was just barrel set aside.
Yeah. Yes. But the biggest surprise, I mean, the fact that he threw the gin in there for us when, we're the whiskey channel.
Mm-hmm.
Weird nose, but the taste it's a limoncello gin in a glass you can drink neat.
Yeah. I've never ever thought of
sipping
on just straight gin.
Yeah.
But this
Totally agree.
just neat. Doesn't need a cube. Like, it was perfect.
Yeah. And I immediately came home and bought myself a bottle because I was like, I just want to have it around I want other people to have that same experience going, really? Just straight gin?
Yep.
Yeah. Just straight gin, maybe on a cube. Got to try that. I think that would be really good. Just, you got to take the first sip before you really get into the nose part, because the initial nose was all that juniper, gin smells. But once you taste the lemon, that really came through much stronger. So I thought it was really good. The rye wasn't my favorite. I mean, you called it like it smelled like a fresh can of paint. So
yeah, it did. But once Adam went through some of their tasting notes, and he said dill, that changed my mind.
Right.
It was the dill. It wasn't paint fumes.
I don't know. It was a spectacular experience, and it was it's very interesting, the flight that they've put together of different products. And I'm that's another distillery. I'm excited to see where they're at in like 5 to 10 years. What's the next thing they release? Do they start playing with the mash bills to, the Dareringer versions, or do they just use different malted wheats and barleys? And
I'm going to go with that they're going to probably add another bottle or two to their lineup over the next 5 to 10 years. That just kind of seems how the industry is going. I don't think they're just going to sit back on the 4 that they have. But
I also think on the tour he mentioned that they were testing a 5 grain. So that could be interesting too. Yep. There could be a new release early next year if that works out. So
I'd say overall, I mean, I've been on a handful of tours, but this by far was the best tour I've been on. Very informative, and it was awesome that he kind of let us get a peek behind the scenes on some of the areas up there.
Yeah.
Their bar was incredible.
When that opens back up downtown Louisville, that is a spectacular spot.
It faces the windows face the west, so at night you could get the sunset. Open those doors up and the windows up a little bit. Like it's just a really, really nice setup altogether there.
Yeah, they thought through it a lot, and they did a really good job designing the whole space. So,
well, we really hoped you enjoyed part 2 of our Rabbit Hole tour and tasting. If you did, we really, really encourage you to hit the like button at the bottom of the screen.
While you're down there, if you could hit the subscribe button, that'd be great. Hit the bell icon if you want to get notified, and leave a comment. Again, what do you think of the 2-part episode? What do you think of how it came out filming live on site? It's not something we had any experience in doing. We just give it a shot, and it ended up being, I think it turned out okay. And what do you think of Rabbit Hole? Did we interest you in possibly going and trying a gin? Let us know. Just shoot something down in the comments. We'd really appreciate it. So,
here's to a happy and healthy
New Year.
New Year.
Cheers.
Cheers.